and we're going to begin advancing the presentations. So welcome to MEV-201, Environmental Design Concepts. Sean, if you'd like to begin advancing the slides, that'd be great.
Absolutely, Rich.
And this is our Masters 2020 Masters Technology Architect Program, which is, we're glad to have you here. We're going to introduce our presenters in the course. Sean, please. This is MEV Environmental Design Concepts. Our instructors are Sean Nelson, who is a solutions engineer working on the AV side of things. We have Scott Patterson, our manager of solutions engineering. And both of them work for our sales support services team. They help our customers design systems, quote systems, answer really technology architect questions on a daily basis. And of course, I'm your co-host, Richard Sasson. I'm the Global Director of Technical Services, and we are here to give you a great presentation. There are lots of surprises in this session. We will be introducing new technology concepts that you may not have seen. Of course, we're going to be doing some polls, and we're going to try and have some fun with you. So we look forward to you being a part of our session. Please keep the questions related to the content that is being presented. If you have a technical support issue, please contact rsvp@crestron.com, or if it's a technical support issue regarding a Crestron product, you can always email support@crestron.com. But welcome everybody. Welcome Sean and Scott. Gentlemen, thanks. I want to take the time to thank you for presenting today and hand it over to you both.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Thank you. It's a brand new world here. It's kind of interesting to be doing this remotely instead of doing this in person. I miss seeing everybody in person. Really, honestly do. All right, everyone, environmental design concepts. Just going to throw it out here. The overall objective of this class is really kind of discussing how the environment has changed and how we're going to keep everybody in contact. Communication seems to be the key, especially right now with a lot of teams working remotely or working in mixed environments where some of them are in office, others are home. So that communication is a key and it's essential to any success of any project. And this is kind of the topic of the day. Running through things, we're going to do a very brief history of environmental design. It's only a couple of slides, just kind of give you guys a bit of a background on it and how things have changed and how they've evolved rapidly in just the past 3 months with everything going on. We'll get into some of the new challenges that we're facing. As I mentioned, remote workers, probably the biggest challenge right now and most likely a challenge in the foreseeable future. We'll also discuss some of the new opportunities that are going to happen. Because of the fact that everything has changed and evolved so rapidly, that really opens the door for you to step in and be able to take on some new roles and some new responsibilities. And we'll get into some examples. We've actually got a few drawings, a few different designs that we can discuss. This will go across markets. It's primarily geared to commercial, not quite as much residential, but we'll talk about that in a few moments here. And of course, as Rich said, we're going to open this up a little bit and have a bit of an open discussion, a little bit of a back and forth at the tail end for anybody who's able to stick around. All right. So the history of environmental design, if you were to think about it conceptually, I would probably say the best example I can think of is 1920s, 1930s, when they used to have the big movie theaters. A lot of times you've got some public press photos of ice cold air conditioning. The whole marquee, they did not even say a word about what they were actually showing. They actually advertised the air conditioning because it was July, it was 95 outside, and people wanted to go in and cool down. So the whole concept was, yes, you can see a movie, but I'm going to impact the environment around you and make it that much better of an experience for you. But if you want to talk about putting things on paper, there actually was a conference, Heating and Ventilating for the Human Environment. It was held by the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. So all these engineers kind of got together to put this down. Now notice I said 1930s was advertising, right? From advertising to actual put on paper took a little bit longer. And if you're thinking about it, you're wondering, hey, when did they actually do this? 1967. So 1920s, 1930s, they advertised it. 1967, they actually started to design around it. and utilize it and say, can I control the AC? Can I control this? Can I control that? Put it on drawings, etc. And then you think a little bit further and you think how much technology has changed from 1967 to now. How many different things we can now control, be able to run with. All right. So that's kind of a little history lesson there, just to kind of kick it there a little bit. Now, there's a lot of challenges that are out there. There's a lot of things that we faced over the years. We've all kind of gotten the boilerplate. We added a couple of touch screens in a spot. We went ahead and controlled the video conference. We controlled the lights, controlled the HVAC, etc. But all of that was based on us touching a physical touch panel. Now suddenly we're faced with a lot of new challenges. One of the biggest challenges is remote workers. Somebody's not physically there to touch anything at all. They're not there. You've also got multiple generations, and the challenge with multiple generations is not everyone is comfortable with technology. I am kind of curious, we didn't do it as a poll question, but I'm wondering, just a general comment, how many of you guys have seen a lot of your clients have difficulty with the various platforms? Being candid, just setting this up, we ran into some technical difficulties and a couple of learning curves here and there, and that's a lot to kind of consider, especially when you go across generations. Different people, they adapt to different technologies at different speeds, right? Designing with minimal touch. I know everyone thinks of things like Iron Man. They think of Jarvis. Oh, I can just say what I want and it's automatically going to happen, and that's not always the best thing. There's always going to be some touch involved. The question is, how much can we minimize it? And again, this is a viable challenge, not just now. This is a viable challenge moving forward, at least for the foreseeable future, right? So really the question is, how do you maintain communication with all of this? I know they say when the team's working remotely, how do you maintain communication? But I'm gonna go a step further. You've got people learning different platforms. You're trying to minimize touch. So you're trying to do it on surfaces that they're not used to interacting with. And you're supporting more remote workers. So there's three major challenges that we now face from a design perspective, right? And as much as I say, go ahead.
Sean, what about like just the challenges that we face as Crestron and how we kind of like adapted within like a few weeks of just coming up with how do we work from home? Because
yeah.
You know,
yeah, that was huge. It felt like an overnight flip of the switch. It was within a week, all of us found ourselves working remotely. And there's any number of challenges. And here's where it gets really interesting. On here, I'm saying the modern office space, but I'm not in the office. Scott, you're not in the office. Rich, I know for a fact you're not in the office. And a lot of times we didn't have a home office, did we? So how many of you guys out there are crammed in your basement? You're sitting in the spare bedroom. Me, I'm at the kitchen table, right? We made do with what we have, but when this is said and done, suddenly having a home office is no longer a novelty. Suddenly that's something that people are interested in. And if they're interested in that, what technology do they have in there? Rich, if I could bug you for a moment, I know you've got lighting control in yours. I don't know if it's active right now. But
yeah, no, it is, Sean. I can actually do that. I have a Crestron system in my house. You know, I have the pleasure of alpha and beta testing everything.
Yay.
So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the lighting in my office because normally I do that before the call. But as you and I know, we had some technical challenges beforehand and didn't get to do that. So as you can see, I can play with the lighting like that.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
So whether you're adjusting lighting, whether you're adjusting your audio, your acoustic challenges, I'll throw it out here real quick. I'm just kind of talking through it. The actual challenges to overcome in a modern office, obviously lighting, which is what Rich kind of just adjusted, sound's a huge one. For example, I've got kids. They're being good right now. They're being quiet right now as I glance over at them. And Rich, to joke with you, my lighting control is a 10-year-old that'll walk over and turn it up or down if I need to adjust it. That's about as advanced as I've gotten so far. So, all right. But there's also visual challenges. And as much as I say challenges, what that really should say is there's distractions, right? We have a lot going on. We're in an environment that we did not expect to be conducting work, but we are making it work. And if anything, we're not just making it work, we're being successful at it. Now, having a dedicated spot to set things aside, this is where residential dealers come in. You're going to need technology that can be very quickly deployed and very easy to integrate with. And that's probably the most fascinating part, is how many people are seeing things like Mercury, seeing things like Flex. And we're starting to see that adoption, not necessarily in the conference room and the huddle space we expected. We're seeing people test that out at home because it's easy for them to integrate. It's all in one, and it's right there in front of them. Something to think about, something to just kind of food for thought there. So at this point, I think, Rich, we were going to throw a poll up real quick. Oops, sorry. Went prematurely.
Yes, we are. So why don't we take a look at this? One of the things we'd like to get from everybody is, what are the biggest challenges you are seeing working remotely? You know, and it is a big thing that we are all experiencing. I know that we are all on calls at Crestron, Teams, Zoom, and other methods daily, regularly, and nonstop. So let's take a look at what are some of the challenges you are seeing with these situations.
I'm realizing as I look at this, we didn't even put internet connection. I don't know how many people have had their internet connection or their power possibly cut once or twice due to a storm or something. You know, environmental conditions.
Yeah, we also didn't look at things like, we didn't bring up in here. Well, we have connection quality, actually. That's kind of
connection quality. That's kind of close.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I know that I was having some audio issues before. So I'm seeing that some folks have not been working remotely and have not had issues. That's wonderful. Good to see that, Jan. Thank you. So we're going to let this go for a little bit here. But, you know, it is, as you said, Sean, there are a lot of challenges when working remotely or when working in the office and working with your team members, right? And then how about no furniture and family members? Yep, that's definitely, Joseph, that is definitely a challenge. In fact, I was originally supposed to be on my speakerphone. My son's a music teacher, and he is playing tuba downstairs, so I had to switch to my headset at the last possible minute, which caused all sorts of fun issues. But yes, so those are some of the fun things. There are general distractions, yes, absolutely. Good point, guys.
100%.
So it's coming.
Not everyone has their not everybody has their own home office that, you know, like Sean
that's
said,
true.
you know, he's at his table. You know, we've had pictures of people setting up their office on ironing boards.
That was the best photo ever. That was actually really interesting to see that photo, Rich.
So we had some fun at Crestron. We had people sending in pictures to everybody about what their home office looks like, you know. And you'd be surprised if we took our backgrounds down, what you'd see behind us.
I'm not doing that. My wife would not tolerate that. I'm not doing that. But I will say this: one of the bigger challenges that I've kind of come across is, even if some of the team is able to be in the office, the rest of the team is working remotely. That's actually more difficult than everyone just working remotely, because if everyone's working remotely, that's very easy to do. But if half of them are together in some form of an office space, there's visual cues, there's different conversations that can happen that may not carry all the way over to the online section as well. So that mixed environment is kind of what I'm concerned with, and I'm seeing a lot of chatter right now about mixed environments moving forward, where you're going to have a mixture of people at different times. All right. So
let's see the results. Hang on. So let's take a look at the results. Right. So what we can see here is that, for the most part, the biggest challenge people are seeing, and we've seen it ourselves on these sessions, is connection quality.
Yeah.
And then the next biggest challenge we see is time management. Your whole perspective in designing and doing work changes. You know, sharing files, communicating, presenting, managing meetings, and then all the things that people added in the chat sessions and in the Q&As. You're right. These are challenges that some of us may have faced a little bit in the past, but we really are changing our entire work environment. And depending on where you are in the world, you may be more impacted than others. Yes. And so you now have different ways to look at things. And what we're going to cover today as part of designing for the environment is how we can help reshape and rethink how you design systems. Everything from the no touch concept to the minimum touch concept and beyond. And what are things that you may want to look at from a design perspective as you move forward with technology. So I'll stop talking,
No,
Sean,
you're
and turn
good.
it back to you.
You're good.
That's good.
We've
Good.
had the whole conversation about this. It's such a fascinating topic because it's almost like a lot of the design concepts got turned on their head. There was a time when remote workers was a novelty. It was a option at the tail end of a scope of work. Now suddenly I'm seeing it in projects where it's at the very top. You know, home office was, hey, a realtor, I've got an extra home office right here, spare bedroom you can use. Now suddenly I'm seeing people seeking out properties that have that. Again, a lot of things have really changed. Here's where it's interesting, and I love the visual photo of this mainly because that individual, I'm going to assume for right now, is probably an IT professional. And if anyone right now has really been burning the midnight oil, it's been the IT staff. I'm actually in constant contact with several of the IT members just to make sure that everything's running smoothly. They're pretty good friends of mine. And they've burned a lot of midnight oil to make it possible to connect it the way we're connecting, to make it possible to actually do any kind of remote work at all. And what that leads to is IT is significantly, can I use the word overloaded? They've got so much going on. They're concerned about, can you access certain things? Can you access that server? Can you access this? They're not as concerned about, hey, what are you using to connect? Are you using Teams or Zoom? They're not paying attention to a lot of that stuff. So really kind of branching off of this whole MTA track, a big opening, a big opportunity is technology architects. Somebody who can walk in, look at all these different disparate technologies and say, I have a solution that can control all of them. But more importantly than just controlling all of them, I can meet those expectations my customer currently has, but I can also exceed those expectations. I can provide them with an experience beyond what they currently are expecting to have. And that's really the thing. It's improving that customer experience. It's exceeding those expectations. To be able to walk in with something like Teams, to walk in with something like Zoom. Air Media is a huge one. AM200s, I don't need to connect anything. Rich, I know you purchased a bunch of styluses because that was a very big question. Can a stylus push a touchscreen? And he tested out a whole bunch of them. I was actually very grateful for this. He tested out a bunch of different ones to see, hey, does this work? It was a multi-pack, I want to say, wasn't it, Rich?
It was. I spent all of $7.
Yeah.
Got 10 pack.
Yeah. So can I use this? But the back and forth we had when we were kind of developing this, as awesome as that little stylus is, how do I plug in an HDMI cable with a stylus? Because at some point I need to physically interact with my environment. And that got to the whole conversation about, well, what about an AM200? Because an AM200, I don't need to connect a cable. Okay, how do I control the room? Well, what if I were to do something like an X panel? I mean, the surprising thing from all the conversations I've had is that we have done this before. We did X panel control for years and years. And then that sort of kind of went by the sideline, and now we're starting to see that take off again, you know? So along with those new opportunities, that's great when you're designing it. Hey, I designed everything, and I know I have a lot of designers, a lot of consultants out there right now, but more so than just an architect role, you also have a management role. Because once this technology is there, once I've designed everything, once my team went in and installed it, IT doesn't have the time to keep the ball rolling. They're not necessarily interested in keeping up on the new technologies for control capability. They're interested in keeping their server running. So somebody's got to be there for the trouble tickets. Somebody's got to be there to maintain the system and to develop a roadmap for when you want to refresh this technology down the road.
So,
And that's another conversation.
So Sean, what about, like, if we look at a technology manager, what kind of new opportunities does that bring to our dealers and things like service contracts and follow up? How do you take care of people now at their home office? And so you design these really cool systems as the architect, but now as a manager, what kind of challenges are you faced now, not just showing up at a commercial building, but people are at home, and how do you support all that stuff? I mean, these are all new opportunities that have just in the past couple months have just come about because, you know, I'm at home. I can't figure out how to do this because I'm technically challenged. Who do I call?
Who do I call? Yeah.
Right.
Who do I call?
So,
And you're getting that because, who do I call? Do I call IT? IT goes, hey, is it installed? Great, it's installed. Yeah, I don't use that platform. I don't know what to tell you. So it becomes challenging. Is the enterprise that you work for or the customer that you work for, are they standardized on a technology? Rich, I've lost track of how many different platforms I've used in a week. You and I were laughing that I used BlueJean. You're like, oh my God, you still use BlueJean? Yeah, I still use BlueJean. I had a couple of universities that wanted to use BlueJean, Zoom, WebEx, you name it, Teams. I've seen a flood of different chat-based environments because everyone seems to be using something else. And OpenUC right now, that seems to be the golden thing that everyone's trying to chase. I've had a lot of designs where they wanted to plop a PC in, but that led to a lot of challenges because when you have a mixed bag like that, you're trying to learn all these different little nuances to every little software soft codec you're doing. And at the end of the day, a lot of times they'll take that out and they'll put in something like Zoom, something like Teams, and they'll say, we'll standardize on this and we'll train everyone on this. And again, that's the role of a technology manager, to train them, to make sure it's all there, to make sure that it keeps working, that it's going smoothly. Whether they're working remote or whether they're working in the office, the intent is to give them the same seamless experience as far as the controls themselves. You shouldn't see a major change from one to the other. All right. Now at this point, I think we're going to throw another slide up or another poll up, if I'm not mistaken. Rich, correct?
Yeah, Sean, you're about to discuss some new concepts, but I think it would be good for get some feedback on some of the concepts we're going to introduce. So we'd like to know if our customers, if our design team, if our community has tried to design systems with any of the following concepts. Now, whatever these mean to you is up to you, but have you designed anything with Zoom room voice control or auto routing with an HDMD 400 and AM 200? Email control and scheduling options, bring your own control interface with HTML5, and that's relatively new. Proximity join with Crestron HTML5, virtual classroom with AV framework, mobile carts, and maybe you've never used any of these, which is okay because Sean, you and Scott are going to tell us some really great information about these types of rooms. And I think, Sean, you actually want to show people the design applications, how they can put this together, and introduce some really brand new concepts and potentially even some brand new products, perhaps, that have not been shown anywhere else. Is that correct, Sean?
From the product standpoint, it's going to get a little bit interesting. I'll have to kind of side dance and sidestep that a little bit. I was fortunate enough to have conversations with a variety of our different managers and get their input from their products that are going to be showcased in the upcoming slides. And it really was a fascinating conversation. I had a conversation with some of the UC team for Flex, and they explained how their Flex units operate and how they provide that seamless environment. Had a great conversation with Tuan in regards to the new 4 Series processor and some of the advanced capabilities it has specifically with C#. So that's going to be a really cool thing. There's so much out there. It's a very exciting time from a design standpoint. I'm actually pretty excited to see all this. So, and then of course, I almost forgot to mention them, the Fusion team. Had conversations with them as well. The real backbone of scheduling things and seeing what's going on. I had that conversation. So how's it looking, Rich? I saw the poll just disappear.
Yep. So it's actually pretty exciting to see that lots of people have used auto routing with HDMD 400 and AM 200. What's interesting is the mobile cart approach, and so many people have done that, which is wonderful. And I think you're going to be excited about what we're going to show here. I also find it interesting that there's some folks who've joined with HTML5, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Because that's the new technology that's coming. We're not going to go in depth on that, but it is something that we are going to show. So having said all that, Sean and Scott, why don't you tell us about some of these really cool, new, exciting rooms and new challenges that you've got for the team?
Yeah, we're kind of very excited about that because it's kind of new for us, being part of the design team and our team. We love to collaborate, come up with new ideas. I mean, it's not just about the box. It's about the application, how to use those things, how to come up with innovative ways to meet today's challenges. And our our design team came up with some really cool ideas. And so Sean, let's present this because it's kind of exciting for us.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. The one thing that I didn't quite mention, and we're going to get into this here and right now pretty much, is all these existing rooms, all these types that we were just talking about. So the Huddle Space, for example. How long have you guys heard the Huddle Space concept? I want to say, what, 2 years, 3 years at least? Huddle Space, Huddle Space, Huddle Space. Get these small groups of people. You guys all sit in a corner real quick. Now you don't want to be near anybody, and you don't want to touch anything. So that presents a big problem. Conference rooms. Hey, we're going to all get in the conference room real quick, and now half your staff is remote. So what's up with that? Boardrooms. I've lost count. I've actually had several CEOs that I've spoken with that quite literally don't want to touch anything at all. They want to be able to walk in and it sets up, and they don't want to touch anything. They want to be bothered with it, I think was the actual comment. Home offices getting UC. Here's really kind of the gist of this. Then I'm going to get into the actual drawings themselves. All of these challenges that each and every single one of you are facing and meeting and performing now are challenges that your clients are likely going to run into as they transition back into the workforce, as they transition back into their offices. And a bigger point to that is that you have projects that you're developing now. How many former clients are going to walk into an office space that was developed specifically around touchscreens and around touch technology, and they're going to need to standardize on an open UC because they've just run into this problem? How many of you are seeing calls from former clients because of that? You're not only got projects now, but you've got projects resurfacing that you've already done, right? Classrooms are a big one. That's why I kind of held off showing this. Classrooms are huge right now. They're trying to figure out how do they do remote for all the students? How do the teachers communicate? For any of the individuals out there, myself, I am a parent, and that's been a major challenge for a lot of teachers to be able to do their lessons plans remotely. To be able to do, I've seen some use Google Classroom. Some of them have actually used YouTube and filmed whatever that lesson was, and here you go, kids. Here's a lesson plan, and here's your PDF. But it's definitely a challenge. And that's really rich. That's where the mobile cart comment came in, because mobile carts are starting to take off. Everyone is starting, even in courtrooms, they're starting to just put all this technology on a cart, wheel it in. I joke that it's the old AV cart updated with new cool stuff, because that's really what it reminds me of, the old AV cart from high school with brand new cool stuff on it, right? And let's be honest here. Let's get into the drawings. That's what you guys really want to see. You don't want to hear me rambling on. Let me get into the drawings here. So adjust. Back hurts a little bit. There we go. All right. The big one that I liked was really Zoom with Alexa. And the surprising conversation here is that this is actually a partnership between Alexa for Business and Zoom itself. In fact, if you go on to Zoom's website, they actually have an entire layout. It does require Alexa for Business account. You cannot do this with your little Echo Dot at home. The difference is with Alexa for Business, there's some additional privacy involved, and each one of these little Echo Dots can be registered. It can actually be registered as what's known as a shared device or a shared asset. And at that point, there's all kinds of behaviors so that you can actually start a meeting. You can stop a meeting. If a meeting is scheduled, there's a lot there to explore. Yes, we can augment that with Crestron voice control. You can drop an RMC3 in there. You can, augment that entirely. You can also have a TSW in there for obvious basic control of a UC Zoom engine, as well as for being able to do it for an RMC3 for room controls. But really, to not touch anything, to do it just purely from voice is kind of exciting, kind of interesting. I verified all of this with our actual UC team. Here's where things get slightly complicated. They do not have a physical box to test right now. So this is awesome on paper. It's actually really, really cool to look at. And it is a full implementation of Zoom. So Zoom is actually fully there. The interesting conversation that I had is that with Zoom, all the Zoom updates, all the Zoom behaviors, all the Zoom features, those are automatically updated on the UC engines. So the minute you do the firmwares and stuff, those are automatically updated, and that behavior is present, that behavior is there for you guys to be able to explore, test out, and see. What I don't know is if your clients allow for Alexa or not. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but this is certainly a conversation to have. All right. Auto routing. Rich, I know you were talking about this one. This is actually kind of cool. Yes, I can plug in my HDMI cable and I can automatically route my HDMI cable, but what about not having to plug anything in at all? Drop in a little AM200 up there. Now I'm communicating. If I drop in an access point, then I don't even need to plug in that dotted LAN. Now I can do that wirelessly. As long as there's an access point that I can connect to it with, and then I'm off to the races. I'm doing it wirelessly or I'm doing it hardwired. But the whole concept here is to minimize the touch. You'll notice there's no control interface. There's no RMC3. 2 little products and we call it a day. And this is a very quick solution to the huddle rooms. It's a very easy way to put the huddle rooms in play. All right.
This is probably one of our most common used solutions even before the no touch. It just seems to be a very inexpensive way to really hook up a lot of rooms quickly, and it pairs up real nice because your AM200 brings up the splash page, tells you how to actually connect and go, and we do this at Crestron a lot. Most of our rooms are set up like this as well.
Yeah. Now, I've seen this taken a couple steps further. I've actually seen individuals that have hooked up an AM200 to the ingest of a Mercury unit. I've seen that. That's actually been pretty common recently. AM200s seem to be very common just to offset things, just to put it in the environment, put it in place. And again, it's that wireless option. Now, if you wanted to, let's say myself personally, I'm not a huge fan of just automatic routing. I'm old school. I like having something physically route. If I were to put an RMC3 in this environment, that gives me control over all of the devices that are there, but I don't necessarily need a touchscreen. I could always set it up in a manner that I'm doing it with an X panel. And moving forward, we can eventually do this with CH5 as well. But for right now, I could do it with an X panel conceivably. And that way, I walk in with my laptop, I make the switch with my laptop, I hook everything up, and I'm off to the races. And the key is I'm only touching my physical personal device that I walked into that room with. I'm not touching any of the other common AV components, right? Email and scheduling. This was a very interesting conversation. We've done Fusion for many, many years. We've been able to email and book a room and schedule a room and have certain things start based on that room capability. Fusion's done this for a very long time. Just kind of reminding you guys that you can still do that. You can still book rooms and start rooms. The fascinating part is that specifically with a 4 series processor and the support of full-blown C#, you now have the expanded capability of communicating with other things. Previously, for the Fusion server to communicate with a variety of databases, there was all kinds of back-end coding that had to happen, all kinds of additional stuff. Phil Pfister and I had a long conversation about all this extra stuff they had to do just to get a room to configure based on individual preferences and whatnot. Now, you can offload a lot of that onto a 4 series processor, specifically with Sharp. Sharp can do a lot of this stuff. And it's kind of neat because Fusion can still do what it does best, schedule everything based on an email, etc., but it can then hand that information off to the 4 series processor, which can dissect that further. So you can know who's going to be attending the room. You can base your configuration for a multi-use room on whatever configuration they set in the email if they have a multi-purpose room. There's a lot of exciting opportunity specifically in this spot right here. And then if you augment it with things like your sensors, like your PoE sensors that we have for motion, now suddenly I have occupancy as well. So as much as we harped on data analytics, data is always a great thing. Scheduling and being able to very quickly jump into a room seems to have kind of gone to the forefront here. Thoughts? Scott, Rich?
It's quite amazing how the CP4, in the 4 series has come a long way, even going to VC4. I think with the mail, was it with the mail that you can actually send in commands for email and make it work? It's kind of very interesting on the CP4, the 4 series.
So everything I'm showing is all entirely possible. There's obviously going to be some testing involved. There's obviously going to be some adjustment involved, but this is all brand new world, so to speak. I know Tuan and his team have been talking about C# and they've been talking about HTML5 for quite a while, and that's all now right here at the forefront. For anybody who's not really a programmer, now is an opportunity to kind of look into what that is capable of, what C# in particular is capable of. It's a huge opportunity here. All right. Bring your own control device. That's one of my favorites. I just show up with my own thing. I show up with my own tablet. I show up with my own cell phone. I show up with my own laptop, right? We've been doing Xpanels for, God, Rich, you would know. How long have we had Xpanel for? I'm trying to
Since
think.
1997. I put one of the first ones in Morgan Stanley, connecting the World Trade Centers and 1585 Broadway on an ENET card.
Oh my goodness.
Those of you old enough to remember an ENET card, you're going, what's an ENET card? That was on our old X generation processor, and it was our first foray into web-based control. It was eControl 1. If I remember right, it was Java-based. It was an interesting scenario. It took them 6 months to get the connection between the two campuses. One was all the way down at the tip of New York City, and the other one was in Midtown. And back then, getting network connectivity between buildings was not an easy thing to do. So yes, it's been around forever and a day. And now it's so much easier to do all these things. You know, it's a lot of flexibility and capabilities available to our customers.
Sorry about that. For some reason, my PowerPoint decided to skip out halfway through your little conversation. I have no idea why the PowerPoint just did that. That was weird. But it's fascinating how long we've been doing this for. Here's the exciting part. I know that Xpanel for quite a while was very specific. Originally, it was originally an executable, I want to say. And then they did it as a web page. And I remember doing it as a web page, which was where the laptop came in. That was a very big deal. We eventually got Xpanel to a point where you could, not necessarily Xpanel itself, but you had the mobile capabilities, whether it was Mobile Pro, the Crestron app later on developed out of that, etc. But it was always fairly specific to a size of an interface, and scaling was always an issue. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of throw this at you guys. I do have CH5 right there, and it does make the comment one size fits all devices, and I know that we are slowly rolling out CH5 support, which is essentially the Crestron equivalent of HTML5. We are rolling that out, but the real benefit to that, more than anything else, is that I now have the ability to lay that thing out in a way that it will automatically scale to different interfaces as I send them to the different interfaces. That is a huge offload right there to be able to do that. It's actually a very, very cool thing. All right. You'll notice I still have the AM200 sitting there on the sides. The AM200 obviously is just going to be able to allow you to connect wirelessly or wired, depending upon what it is. Most likely in this environment, everything's wireless. You do have optional control from a touchscreen as well if you'd like it. But this is all just kind of walk in with your own stuff, be able to rock and roll, and not have to worry about it. And really, speaking of walking in with your own stuff, here's where things get interesting. Before I'd talked about Zoom and I had talked about Alexa and things like that, well, Microsoft Teams, they have this really cool thing known as a proximity join. And again, this is outside of Crestron. This is actually Microsoft and Microsoft Teams development. They essentially use the Bluetooth beacon in your phone and the Bluetooth that's inside the Teams UC engine. And I did verify both single and dual display UC engines have the Bluetooth beacons in them. And this would allow you to see whether or not there's a room around you that is not currently scheduled and in use. Provided that room around you is not currently scheduled and in use, you can essentially invite that room And then suddenly you can utilize that room's speaker, audio, video, etc. Basically, your cell phone at that point becomes a control interface for that room to be able to do a Teams call. So this, again, it's amazing what we're able to do. This is something that I double checked with the UC team to make sure that it is there. They said it's most definitely there. And they followed up with, but we haven't tested it yet. So we know the behavior's there. They are aware of it. It is most certainly on their radar, and it's something they're very excited about. Definitely kind of a cool thing to look at. All right. Now, if I were to take that really cool proximity join, be able to utilize that in any of my team's environments, basically, to be able to walk in. Suddenly, I have the ability with a proximity join to push myself and become the control interface for the Teams call, to be able to do the Teams call. I now have an AM200 on the ingest, which means I'm not touching anything. I'm linking up to the AM200 for my content. My content goes on my Teams call, right? And then to really top it off, I use an X panel for controlling the environment. So if I need to adjust the lights, if I got shades in the room, if I have anything I need to touch that I would normally need that touchscreen for, I've just bypassed the touchscreen. How's that for not having to touch anything? Everything on your tablet or your laptop or your potentially your cell phone. Whole different ballpark now. A little bit different, huh? What do you think, Scott? What do you think, Rich? This is cool.
Got some very cool questions and answers coming in. It's quite interesting. I know we did a CH5 webinar earlier. So I think, Rich, that's probably recorded right now. People can download to take a look at how CH5 works.
Yeah, so the CH5 webinar is posted to Online Help, Answer ID 2015. You can get that by going to support.crestron.com. You will need to have a login. I know I see a lot of questions, people asking, Sean, why do we show 232 to control display devices? And why didn't we just do CEC control? It's an option. It really is. It's kind of shown as a dotted line as an option, folks. I know you're asking that. I got that like 5 or 6 times, but it is an optional way to control. It's not that there are two 232 lines going to the same TV. It is separate lines going to it. But again, it's an option that you have. Maybe you could talk about how with AM200s or with HDMD 400s, you can configure a system to be controlled via CEC or 232.
Yeah, you could, well, in either of those two, you have an onboard capability to do 232 or CEC. CEC I enjoy, but CEC is dependent upon the display itself. It is obviously a standard across multiple platforms, multiple manufacturers, but the manufacturer does have to support the CEC for that to be able to be utilized, where 232 in a lot of cases is what I would call old faithful. It's something that we always kind of rely on. Being candid, a lot of us have used 232 forever. What I'm also seeing outside of those two is Ethernet control of displays. More and more you're seeing an Ethernet drop to displays as well. So really there's those 3 versions. You could argue that you could also do IR out of a processor if you wanted to, although IR I don't really see as often anymore. I'm not sure about you guys. I don't see IR as much anymore. But yeah, you could do CEC or 232. You could do either one of them. Oh, somebody had a Teams call. I heard
That's
it in the
okay.
background.
Yeah. So, Sean, could you also talk about the AM USB Wi-Fi dongle and how that connects into the Mercury engine for AM200 presentations and how that might play into this scenario?
See, I'm so used to putting an access point, I completely forgot. You're right, you can throw the dongle in there. And with the dongle in there, now suddenly you're enabling wireless-based capability. Just with that little tiny USB little chip that you're popping in, now suddenly you're wireless entirely. So you're not even dedicated to, I need to have an access point. It essentially becomes an access point at that point for you to be able to utilize. And good point, Rich. Apologies. I'd forgotten about that entirely. I was going to put that into the slides, and I'd forgotten to do that.
Well, that's
so
why we
yeah,
talk about it here.
Yeah, this whole conversation. I mean, everything that's happened completely changed how we interact with the environment. And whether that's long-term, whether that's short-term, that is something that all of our clients are ultimately facing right now. And that's something that we're trying to design with that in mind. It's really a different world that we're walking back into in a lot of ways. Really is. So
the challenges are just came upon us. I mean, when Sean and I wrote this class back in around Christmas time, the class was a lot different. And then we sat with Rich just last week and we figured out, wow, we really need to update our class here, because environmental design has completely changed in the past couple of months, and the challenges that we've come up with and just figuring things out and go to this no touch, and because everything was touchscreens, and it's been a bit of a challenge for everybody to just in the past week rethink about what we're going to present to everybody and see these cool solutions and different ideas. It's kind of thinking outside the box, outside of the things that we're used to doing.
Yeah. And really, these drawings are meant to spark a bit of inspiration, spark a bit of conversation, because it feels almost alien in a way. For so long, we pushed, hey, you want to have a dedicated touchscreen right here. You want to have a dedicated touchscreen in this environment. And now suddenly nobody wants to touch that touchscreen. If they do, they have the stylus. Don't get me wrong, they have the stylus. But a lot of people don't want to touch anything. So this concept of bringing your own device, which we've had in a residential market for quite a while, is actually crossing over more into the commercial environment, provided it is a company-issued resource. That's the other half that I should probably say. With things like an AM200, et cetera, it's a little bit different if you have it in what I would call back-of-house operations, where you have clients that are doing their own stuff among employees and everyone can access the network, versus doing it in what I would call forward-facing or front-of-house operations, where you have someone else coming in, a salesman coming in, a client coming in, where their content might be presented. So that's another challenge that I'm running into, is when you have more than one network, sometimes they actually have more than one AM200 and they're switching between them based on which network it's on. So
Sean, there's an interesting question here about xPanel. So is xPanel going to be used in the room, or is it each member of the company having an xPanel?
xPanel is usually used within the room itself, and it's usually specific to that room. The AM200 can actually allow you to set passwords. It can allow you to be able to change those passwords based upon whichever meeting you happen to be on, a password randomizer, if you will. And that's one of the concerns, is they don't want somebody to leave a meeting and then start controlling someone else's meeting by accident. But the whole concept here is, yeah, it's room specific. It's not issuing an executable per se. It's something that you're going to bring up when you're in that room, and it's going to prompt you for a password, and you're going to control it based upon the meeting environment that you're in. This meeting right here, this Zoom meeting, is a stunning example of this concept. I don't want someone to join a different meeting. And as much as I'm laughing about it, how much fun, Rich, did we have trying to get in and out of this particular meeting when we were trying to set things up originally, with different passwords and this, that, and the other. So you want a password for the meeting that you're in. And then when you guys start a different meeting, it ends up being a different password for that particular meeting. And AM200 would be able to display all of that. Kind of cool. Definitely something to think about. As much as I'm harping on the office space, what about the classroom? And I'm kind of kicking myself right now, because this right here would have been a perfect spot for me to put a poll. I'm kind of curious how many people out there have even heard of the airboard, because that's one of those little silent technologies that we came out with that we haven't really said much of anything about. I know if you've been into training, in particular if you went into training in New Jersey, we had them and we used to use them and we used to demonstrate them all the time. But I didn't see a lot of designs with the airboard in mind until probably the last, I'll say, 2 to 3 months. And then suddenly this became a hot ticket item that everyone was curious about. So the what is it? Airboard's basically a camera that's mounted above your actual whiteboard, and that's any whiteboard surface. I know we put Crestron as the logo on the bottom. We don't make whiteboards, but you can put it over a glass whiteboard. You mount it above a glass whiteboard or a typical dry erase board, etc. And what it does is it takes a series of photographs of content as you're writing it. The nice thing is, because it takes that series of photographs, it's actually able to edit out your hand entirely. So you don't see your hand covering things over. You end up just seeing the text itself. It does have a bit of what I would call stop motion, in the sense that if you're writing something and you take your time writing it, you'll see it as it's writing it out sometimes. It's actually kind of cool to do, and it's kind of interesting. But as much as it's a novelty in that aspect, here's where it gets really, really good. People can look at it in the classroom, or they can look at it remotely via the internet website, which means that now somebody can write something down with a lesson plan or whatever they're doing. Your students don't even have to be in that physical environment, and they can see what's going on. More importantly, it saves it for up to 30 minutes after your meeting has concluded. And here's the and that I love, it creates a PDF. So you can create a PDF out of it. You can take notes on it. You can literally turn a current lecture or current discussion into something that can actually be notes themselves about the lecture. So you can turn it into a PDF and be able to run with it, highlight, etc. This is a very, very cool technology. It's a technology we've had for a little while. And like I said, a lot of people kind of overlooked it. They didn't really see it as being as useful as it really is. I'm seeing it take off now, though. I'm seeing a lot of people, surprisingly, I've had people ask if they can put this on a mobile cart. That was the part that made me laugh. They're like, hey, can I put that on a mobile cart? It does have a connection between the camera, little bump out camera thing, and the keypad, because you actually push the keypad. There's a little button on the keypad that you push to actually initiate the session. So those two are linked via USB, and then the actual keypad itself is linked via LAN. But definitely something to look at. And we can expand on that. If I add an AM200 and a touchscreen, and the key is I have to add a touchscreen for this to work. But if I add an AM200 and a touchscreen, now I get AV framework capability. Now I have the ability to actually stream it to the AM200 and show up on the local display from the AM200. So I just made this available to everyone outside and directly to my students inside. And if I have a mixed environment, this is absolutely perfect for a mixed environment. I'm seeing a lot of courtrooms that are interested in airboards. I've seen a lot of corporate places that are interested in airboards. I've seen a ton of universities start asking about them. And the reason everyone's doing this and saying this is because it's easier to grab a marker and write on a giant whiteboard versus trying to drag your mouse around on a computer, versus trying to take a marker or take your finger or whatever and write on your little tablet. It's just easier for people. It's natural for people to walk up because we're so used to doing that. Thoughts, guys?
So there's lots of questions coming in about the airboard. So can the airboard work in a local LAN setup? What's the maximum number of people that can connect to an airboard? Has the airboard limitation of reaching public IP connections been solved? I thought that was taken care of. So there's lots of questions. Maybe you and Scott can go over the questions as it relates to the airboard, because I suspect most people are not very, very aware of the airboard and using it. I've seen some people are, but why don't you get and discuss it? That'd be great.
I think we got everyone's attention with the airboard.
Yeah,
I will have to check with engineering about what the maximum amount of people allowed on an airboard is. I know that I have utilized them in a LAN environment before as far as setting them up, but they still require internet access to be able to push things out. So the internet access thing is something that is actually required. You can't do a full LAN capability, but you can't have it on the LAN. Being able to present to it from the air media is probably the biggest update that we did, and even that was kind of a quiet update. But being able to present from the air media was kind of a huge thing as well. I'm not, if I can figure out how to do the Q&As, I'm not seeing the Q&As on mine. That's why I keep
That's
bugging
right.
you, Rich.
Scott's got them. Scott's got
Okay.
So Sean, I mean, we use the airboard in training, right?
Yes.
We do.
You know, so, and I think we also record that to an Epiphin.
We have recorded them to the app events. Yeah, we have Pearl 2s in the training
Yeah.
room. Actually, Alex installed Pearl 2s in there. We used to, I don't know if we still do, but we used to have airboards in the Experience Center as well. I remember teaching our sales guys how to use airboards. Because as I said, this is not a technology that we really showcased a lot. We sold a lot of it to education, but outside education, you never really saw much of them. But I would take people in, court systems was one of the ones when we had the federal guys in.
Mhm.
I would take them into a training room, push one button, and suddenly they would ask how many of them they could order now. Because they really like the ability to just be able to take that and show that for the entire courtroom as a display. So lots of capabilities here, lots of different things. I will make this promise. I will check with engineering and find out what the max number is. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have a lot of cool questions coming in. So Sean, we're gonna have a little bit of work to do this afternoon.
Why don't we go over some of them, Scott? Why don't you just
Yeah.
ask a few of them that we can answer live, and that'd be great.
So here's one about the AM200. How do you turn off the display when the AM200 is permanently connected? That's a great question we get all the time.
The easiest way to do that is an AM200 actually has a presentation mode on it, which will, I'm guessing your concern is sync related. That if it's maintaining sync the whole time, your display won't go to sleep, something like that. That's normally what our tech support guys have encountered. And even for when they're hooking it up to something like a UC engine, there's actually a setting now that they've done with a firmware update that allows you to put it into what's known as present mode. And with present mode, it's not going to send any video until somebody actually connects up to it. Is that the best way to explain it, Rich? I'm trying to think of a better way, but that's the higher level, I think, is that it's not going to necessarily hold on to things.
Well, so sorry, Sean, I was answering some questions. So the nice thing about the whiteboard is, as I'm writing, and one of the comments was, how come it takes so time to display the screen? It is actually processing the image, so it doesn't see the hand.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't care what color is drawn, because it really is taking a picture of the whiteboard surface, regardless of what color you use, white, black, red,
Yep.
green, doesn't matter. It does need to be on a whiteboard surface. It doesn't work on a blackboard. Okay.
Correct.
It does utilize the whiteboard. But the nice thing is, if I put my hand up on the screen, it really won't see it while
Right.
I'm writing. It doesn't see me. It just sees the text I leave on the screen, which is really important.
Correct.
So it takes care of all the colors.
Yep.
It doesn't worry about colors. It's all good.
To clarify, when you say a whiteboard, I know the ones in the training center, for example, are actually fairly high gloss, and they are glass. So anybody who's worried about whether or not it has to be that specific whiteboard material or not necessarily. Those ones actually are glass. And more to your point about being able to edit out the hand, as a demonstration, and for those of you that know me, you know that I usually like doing things like this. I actually left my arm on a whiteboard as long as I could to see how long it would take it to actually render. And believe it or not, it actually took close to, I would say, at least 30 to 45 seconds of leaving my arm there before it would actually show it fully rendered. And when it did, it was like Walking Dead. It was just this arm sticking up right there for those of you that are Walking Dead fans. It was kind of interesting. And the whole intent, and the reason I point this out, is because I was forcing the airboard to do something that it was not designed to do. It was not designed to render my hand. It was designed to render the text and to eliminate my hand so that you could just read the text. The text, the drawing, the colors, everything is very, very sharp on these. I hate saying this from a remote standpoint, but you almost have to just test one of these out to see what they're capable of. These are really amazing little pieces of technology. They really are.
So Sean, here's something very interesting about going from a Series 2 to Series 3 and then moving up to a Series 4.
Okay.
A little bit about the Series 4 and the power that brings, and the updates that are coming through Series 4 that would kind of justify going from a Series 3 to Series 4?
There's a massive, massive, massive amount of horsepower behind a Series 4. It's hard to actually quantify that. I know we do have some sales publications, some marketing publications I know Tuan has given some of his under the hood conversations already, but there is a massive amount of horsepower in a Series 4. On top of just the processing and the horsepower, and if you think about it, how long was the 2 Series out for? I know 2 Series was king of the mountain forever when I started. That was out for a long time. How long was 3 Series out for? That was out for a long time. Now suddenly you're on the bleeding edge with 4 Series, which means all the tech in there is brand new tech. And more importantly, it supports brand new platforms. And that's really the bigger conversation, is the support of the newer programming languages. Well, I put an S on there, but basically the newer programming language, which is C#. So to be able to support Sharp natively is a huge game changer in this environment. And there's a lot more there. There's Tuan and his team would be more qualified to kind of answer some of those. But if there's specific questions, definitely send them Scott and Rich's way. We can reach out to the team and try and nail things down for you guys as well. It's kind of the cool thing about Masters. So, yeah. And then it went silent. I know I'm talking a lot about Classroom. It's kind of strange for me. I'm used to talking and interacting with everyone else in the room. So being just on your own, kind of isolated, it's kind of strange for me. Here's one for you, Rich. The carts. Were we going to poll before this? No, we weren't. This
is later.
We're good. Okay.
So there have been lots of questions about the carts, and people asked for pictures and images, and so I think this is a really cool concept, Sean, that will apply for a lot of applications. And I think this is a great time to discuss what our thought is behind this, why we're doing this, and then talk about the technology behind it. So let's start off there, Sean. Let's talk about what's the goal of doing this and why are we doing it?
Can I have Scott do this one? Because Scott actually was part of the development specifically for this.
I think that'd be a great idea for Scott to
on this one. Sorry to put you under the bus, Scott, but go for it. Have fun.
That's okay. Actually, this came from our product manager. Came from our top guys at Crestron, so to say, and it started out as becoming part of in the hospital. How do you communicate between a hospital room and doctors and sort of, with this new things going on, we needed a cart, right? And we needed to do something that you can roll in and roll out and and be able to communicate. So that's where it initially came from. Since we rolled this out, I guess we put the CADs together just within the past month, let's say. So Sean, if you want to take it to the next slide, I think we have an actual picture of what it looks like.
And by the way, you'll notice UCS, FBCBT, etc. So they're already starting to put model numbers and everything with these things now.
Yeah, they're sold as complete units, so you can buy them and it comes with everything that you need for it. It's not like the a la carte like we usually do, but
I'll skip ahead to the photo first, just so you guys can see a photo, because I know a lot of people are bugging for photo. Let me get to the photo first. Hold on, it's back here. There it is. So there's a photo of one, a real one.
Yeah, so these are actually built. They're going to be coming in black as well. These are some the initial ones that we put together. We've also found that we've gotten a lot of calls from courtrooms now where they need mobile carts to roll in and roll out because they don't want, there's just, you can't contact people in a courtroom like you used to. So we found that's becoming a big thing. Education, we have an order looking at for almost 400 of them for educational places to use as far as communication and stuff like that. So these mobile carts in the past within the past month, these came out very fast, very quick.
And I should probably point out, we did need to get clearance to get these photos. These are not marketing photos. You'll notice the sawdust on the floor, the plastic on the legs and whatnot, the wonderful photo of 22, or actually not 22, sorry, of Orangeburg as the screen because they were testing the camera. These were, as they built them, production photos. Hey, we want to show this to you guys. This is one of the nice things about Masters. You guys are literally on the cutting edge right now. And this is what we wanted to show you guys.
So you'll see later on, we'll go into some useful links that you can go, but we have a link for UC Communications on the on TrueBlue Help that actually shows you the CAD drawings of how these are put together and all the different parts and pieces and things.
While you're talking, I'm going to back up just to get us back to where we were. I just wanted to show a picture because I know that picture is just priceless. I love that picture.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So basically, what we have on these are your teams and your flex Zoom carts, and depending on what you need, there's different flavors, so to say, of these, and we're actually coming out with more. We're getting a lot of requests for some people want to use Panopta to do recording. There's other things to do as far as like, you know, other ideas that are coming through from our customers and stuff. So this is an ongoing thing that we've just came up with about a month ago is when we put together these drawings and stuff. And straight away we've built them. They're now have SKU numbers to buy them from. So we're kind of excited about this whole new challenge for us.
I want to get a Crestron AV Club T-shirt that I can wear on Friday because that's what this reminds me of when we used to have carts way back in the day. You know, we're coming full circle, and it's not I don't mean that as any kind of a slight. I mean that as an absolute compliment. We're coming full circle where people want to be able to roll something in and turn any space into a very quick meeting space. All they need to do is roll the cart in. They're ready to rock and roll. Courts are loving this stuff. A lot of large corporations are very interested in this because they can just roll it in, and it's very easy for them to clean everything afterwards if they need to. Thinking of the new restrictions and whatnot as far as cleaning stuff, you know. This is the Mercury version, so obviously there's a little Mercury on this guy. I did show the soundbar version. Scott, do you know if they're doing a C-Series version or not? I hadn't heard on that one.
So we just came out with the new drawings for the C-Series, so I'm sure that'll be coming up next. We have a question about who manufactures the cart. That comes from Lagrange Middle Atlantic, so we get that from them. Because they have a lot of that stuff like that. So.
Yep, we partnered with them for that stuff. You'll notice how it says custom shelf because we wanted it to look really cool.
Yeah,
so it's not a standard shelf; it's a little custom. Yep.
Yeah, it was custom to fit the Mercury, or the touch panel. So, so that's kind of where we are with the carts. But that's something that's new that we've just come up with.
And instead of just the standard Mercury, here's one with the Mercury X, where you have the actual Mercury X receiver where you're working with. Again, we just kind of wanted to show it off. It's a similar concept across the board, but we really wanted to show this off just so you guys could see it. As Scott alluded to, the tech sales team, our CAD department actually generated the CADs, the rack elevations. They generated everything for it. What you're seeing in front of you is more of a sales presentation. This is more of a really nice version. We had the individual symbols, we had the rack elevations, we had everything sort of laid out from a equipment and install standpoint to make it easier for our trade show team, for Roman and his guys to be able to set all this stuff up.
You'll see on the CAD drawings online, it has the side views a little bit more precise on this, but these were just brought up so that we can have some idea to show how it works.
Yeah. It's amazing. Here's just a flow chart for you guys, just to show you guys how everything's there. It configures very, very, very quickly because everything is right there. This is just like a standard UC engine. It doesn't take much to set up. The one comment that I will make is just like with a regular Teams or Zoom install, you want to set it up as the account for that particular cart, just like you would set up as the account for a particular room. Right? You don't want to use personal accounts on these. You don't want to be switching them out all the time. It's a set and forget. Just treat it as a room device. You just call it mobile cart, whatever, but treat it like you do with the current installs. So very quick install of these things. I think we got everyone's attention at this point.
Yeah.
This is pretty exciting, pretty interesting.
There's some really good questions and answers coming in.
Okay.
Our questions coming in, so yeah.
All right. There's your, like I said, there's your photo. That's not a nicely polished photo. I would love to go back and get a really nice polished photo. This is as they were putting it together photo with the plastic still on the legs.
Yeah,
and that's the part that I kind of laughed about.
This is a true production photo, just to show everyone that, you know, they're really cool looking. They're very solid. They're sturdy. You can see the back is very slick as far as the wiring. Very well thought out about how everything's run through, rubber grommets so that in movement you're not going to cut the wires. How they're actually tying things up. We've worked with our trade show guys on really putting that together. We did talk about maybe retractable power cords and things like that, but we found that they fail too many times. So there's a lot of things that, this is a product that is in development. So you guys are really seeing some of our early stuff of how we're doing this and testing and things. So it's kind of exciting because you can see in the back there, we have our little PO5 injector. So we have that. I saw some questions come in about connecting out to like an NVX or HDBaseT. Those are some great comments on that and stuff. We'll look into that. Of course, what's great is that, you guys are seeing these things and listening to your feedback is great because this is something brand new that we just came out with, and we're finding that it's rolling
a
very
lot more
quick.
popular than we expected. It took off. It really did. Some of our sales guys found out about it through whatever channels they found out about it through, and suddenly our phones exploded with, "Hey, is it true? Are you guys putting this together? How can I get my hands on photos? How can I get one?" Because all of their clients were asking about them.
Yeah.
Or some sort of a solution like that. I shouldn't say these in particular. They were asking for a solution that this fit. You'll notice the custom shelf on the right side. So it does have a little custom shelf that kind of drops down for the touchscreen right there, just to give you an example. The one question that I had, and they were able to answer it rather quickly because I'm kind of close with some of the trade show guys, is I was concerned about whether or not there was anything like, any kind of top heavy or anything like that. These bases are actually designed specifically to hold displays at that height. So this is not something that we're exceeding in any way. This is something that they're actually designed to do, and they're actually not top heavy. They're incredibly stable and very easy to push around. Because that was kind of my question when I first saw the slides. I openly asked that. My background's kind of install based. Also on the left, I know it looks like it's open, but if you look a little bit closely towards the top, you can actually see where there is the door. So that's actually a door that hinges out and closes. When the door closes, if you look down towards the bottom left corner down there, you'll notice that there is a very small cutout down there for all your cables to come out of as well. So you're not pinching any cables. It's all nicely dressed. Everything comes out. A lot of thought, a lot of effort went into these things. These are actually really, really impressive.
So, gentlemen, there have been tons and tons and tons of questions coming in, which is great.
It's fantastic.
I'm going to try and ask a whole lot of these.
We're going to spend half a day on this. I can already tell.
That's okay. We're doing okay on time for once because we don't have a lot of slides left, which is great. So the question is, do we plan to make only a single display, or do we planning on a dual display solution?
I don't know if we've discussed that or not.
Here's
to double back, is there interest in a dual display? Or for that matter, can we do an HDMI out and you just have a second display there that you can plug into? So there's a lot of possibilities.
So Scott seems to have an answer, Sean.
Oh, go.
So the answer to that basically is the size of the cart and the weight. And we're trying to now, we've got some people asking to go up to 86-inch displays and stuff. So, so which is cool because you can roll that in and out. But then again, you're looking at weight, you're looking at distribution. We've had a lot of work. You'll see in the back here with the sound bar and stuff and how we've placed that and how that's mounted in. We had to custom mount some things to do that for weight distribution and stuff. So there is some concern about that. Like we said, this is brand new, like a month old for Crestron, and we've pushed this to market very quick. So dual display could be a little bit challenging because of the size of the cart that you have to move in and out. We also had to make sure that the shelf coming out in the front goes through the door properly and stuff, and that the wheeling needs around. We have to put a lot of into consideration as far as like where you're using it, when it's being used, how it's being moved around, the weight. Can it topple over? So there's been a lot of stuff to go through with that. Of course, with our CAD department, we kind of figure those things out in the design process to make sure that we get the correct carts and things like that. So yeah, I see a lot of cool things coming in on the questions and answers and stuff. And
there's some questions about actually making sure it has handles because they don't want people actually touching the displays.
Right.
That's a great suggestion.
It is. That's great.
Scott, how big is that display that's on it right now? Just to give them a reference of size.
I think that's the 65, maybe.
Okay.
I could probably look it up on the drawings, but
I'm just laughing that an 80 some inch, a 90 some inch, you're going to end up with like all terrain tires on the side of it by the time we're done if you put
yeah.
that kind of weight on these things.
So that was kind of
Yeah.
the back and forth that we're working on right now.
Yeah.
You know, this is like, as we would say in Crestron, the first generation of this. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of ways to use this as a roll-in. The courtrooms love this because they can, the judge can have a video conference at his house, and they can roll these into the jails and stuff and stuff like that. We've had a lot of conversations with courtrooms about that already.
Yeah.
We have a lot of educational facilities are finding out about this, and they're jumping all over it, and they want some custom things done to this. So of course, you know, if you do have customers that want to, you know, are interested in this, but they might have some special needs for things.
Yeah.
You know, that's where sales support services comes in, where you can call up and discuss those needs, and then we can present that to engineering. So we're very excited about this, and we love seeing all this. The questions coming out are looking really cool. So
I've
Lots
had
of
a
great stuff.
yeah.
By the way, we are not discussing pricing on this call. I know a lot of you are asking about that. You can contact your sales team, or you can reach out to techsales@crestron.com. They'll be more than glad to generate a quote for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they shipping at this time? They're about to begin shipping. There'll be a formal product announcement. You guys and gals are getting the inside information before the product is launched. You literally are seeing the prototypes as they're getting ready to ship. So these are brand new technologies. We're launching and introducing something brand new here on this call ahead of everybody else. So
we had to get
touch on
authorization to even show this to you guys.
Correct.
We actually had to cross T's, dot I's. So you'll notice we are being a little bit careful about some of the details because there's only so much we're allowed to say right now.
Right.
But this is definitely very exciting. I know that we did discuss as far as one of the dual display conversations was whether or not we could have just an HDMI out and you just have a second display maybe on a table or something. So there's a lot of different things right now. These are right here, right in front of you. You guys are basically seeing the first run of these, the sneak peek, the open of the curtain, so to speak. So,
yes,
Right.
we just had a question about the size to fit through classrooms, and we did take a lot of dimensions on that and stuff. So yeah, we have put that into consideration. That's one of the points that we did look at and stuff. You know, it's, you know, we know that, you know, moving around classrooms and stuff could be a little bit tricky because, you know, you have a lot of liability issues. So that's why we've trying to keep the displays to a certain size and things, because, you know, they're pretty big, you know.
Yeah. I like the thought of the handles. So the suggestion of the handles, that's definitely something that we'll bring up. We really do like that. Thank you guys. And we are open for feedback as well. We're open for thoughts that you guys have on this. We wanted to show this off, show you what we'd been working on and kind of get your guys' feedback on some of this.
So great question came in. Will this come fully assembled or will this come partially assembled? I'm presuming it's not shipping with the display installed because that's not going to go well. But I would, so gentlemen, can you talk a little bit about what it's going to be, what the customer is actually going to get out of the box? There's some questions about, can I use other sound bars? This is a Crestron solution, and the intent is to use the UC sound bar that ships with it. The idea here is that this is a contained, self-sustaining system. It is a UC engine. It could be Teams or Zoom. Okay, so it is the Flex MX, or is it just the regular Flex?
They have both. They actually do have an MX version as well as a standard one.
So you're going to be able to do Flex or Flex MX. And if you do Flex MX, that means not only do you get native Teams or Zoom, if you say those together, it becomes Toom. Don't do that. Teams or Zoom, and a bring your own device solution. So now you have great opportunities. I see there's a statement about the sound bar being on the bottom of the display.
So
John, do you want to speak to that?
That was definitely brought up and discussed. It was an issue with the sound being projected through the room.
Yep.
So that was why we put that on top. We did test it on the bottom. It just did. The results on the bottom were not as good as being on top. That's why we decided to go with on top.
Yeah.
So the other question is this active or passive ventilation?
That I don't know. I'd have to actually check.
We'd have to
I know it's a UC engine in the back, but I don't.
Yeah.
I currently don't see a fan assembly there. That doesn't mean there's not one there. I just don't see one in here.
Well,
So we can
there's
verify.
a fan in the engine, but that's okay.
Right. Right. Meaning a fan in the rack, though, is what I meant. I don't
Correct.
see a fan
So
assembly
we'll
in the
get that
rack, so
answer
we'll
for
check.
these guys. Okay. We're not shipping the monitors, or we are shipping the monitors?
Scott, unless you know, I actually, a lot of this I have to check because a lot of this is still.
I think Scott does. I think Scott does.
So, well, we're not right now. Those units are still being discussed within our product managers right now. So you're looking at something that is coming out, and things are still being finalized as far as before we actually ship this.
Yeah.
I don't think we really want to sell the monitors, but given the popularity of things that are going on, they weren't even going to do a SKU number for it. That SKU number just came out like 2 weeks ago from our product team. So this is a very hot product moving, and we want to give you guys a little insight to this to see what's going on and what to look for, because we found this hit really hard, and we didn't expect that. Our product managers who developed this didn't really have a lot of. They didn't think it would take off, and then when people found out about it, and the salespeople found out about it and let it go, it's fantastic. We're really excited about it.
Great. There's also some other. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Please.
I would say, to be candid, this was developed for a very specific thing that we were looking at doing, and then it just took off and got a life of its own.
Yeah.
And we are very proud of it. We're very happy about how this has turned out. It certainly is going to meet a lot of different needs that are out there, and it's kind of interesting to see how quickly this kind of caught fire and caught popularity, so to speak.
Yep. And we just had a question too about putting the touch panel behind. We thought about that as well, but it was too cumbersome to go behind the if you push out against the wall, you got to pull it out, move it out. So we did think about the touch screen behind the display, but we found that it was more of a. It wasn't very user friendly. It became very cumbersome and stuff. So that's something that we did think about as well.
Yep. All right. Can I switch slide? Is it safe to switch slide, or do I leave this a little long? This is the longest we've had a slide up, I might add.
There's so many going in. So there's a lot of things going on here. A lot of questions going on because there's no information posted on our site yet.
Yeah,
and we're giving them all a sneak peek, and they want all of the gory details, which is great. It's wonderful.
I got a feeling this is a screenshot for everybody right now. I'm just leaving it here.
I'm sure there is. There are going to be, I'm sure, other things. There are conversations with Logitech and meetups and things like that, but that's not this goal. This uses the UC soundbar with a camera built in. Correct, Sean? It's the camera's built in.
Yes. Well, if I could back up slightly here, that one is actually the B140, essentially. That's what that is. So you have a couple different versions, and I'll back up slightly just to kind of show you guys this. So here's the soundbar version right here. So that's the one that's actually shown in the photograph, is you have a soundbar version, and this is a standard UC Flex soundbar setup, but it's got the display and the cart and everything else, and it's the presentation of it, so to speak, the little tray, whole 9 yards. You also have a Mercury version of that. So that same shelf that we were talking about that had the touchscreen on it would now have a Mercury on it, which gives you your microphone array and everything else. It's not going to sit quite as high because now you just have the camera on top instead of the entire setup on top like you did before. And then you do have the Mercury X as well, which is, that's that slide right there. There's a Mercury X version as well. So these are the three that I have. Scott might be able to chime in if there's more in development. Like I said, I know this project kind of just took off. It kind of got a life of its own.
Yeah, so we do have an answer ID that you can go to. It's 1000624. It's all about unified communications, and you can scroll to the bottom of that page and you'll see mobile cart. We have 2 of them up right now. The MX one is being vetted through right now, engineering, before we can put that up. But you can download the PDF of the cart and what it looks like, a little more detailed. As far
those are CADs though, correct? Those are what we have up.
Those are the
CADs. Yeah.
Correct. Those are the CADs that went to trade support to build these. So these were built according to what you would download from there.
Yep.
So that'll give you a little more information. If you subscribe to that answer ID, as we update it, you'll get new ones that are coming through. We just finished putting some joins together for the new C stuff. So it's ongoing right now. So I think, you know, it's 3 zeros, 1000 624.
624.
So
Okay.
if you did 2 zeros, you wouldn't get it. You need to do 3, and you
do
do
3.
need to be logged in onto your account.
Yeah. So
it's
yeah.
it's 624.
624. Okay. So 1000624.
Right.
I know. I got to remember that now because I've had a lot of sales guys bug me about this. I've had a lot of sales guys email, had them call, had them even do a Teams call on me while I was in the middle of a call. There's a lot of interest in this, and
Yeah.
a little bit of when did you know about it, and how long have you known, and why didn't you tell me? But again, that's the nature of a project, is you can only say what you're allowed to say. So.
And
Right. So I'm gonna reiterate what we've said a few times because the same questions keep popping up. Okay. We're not discussing pricing on this call. Okay. It is not a motorized unit to raise and lower the stand, but it's something we will take into consideration.
yeah, that's a great great suggestion.
Yep. So that's a great suggestion. So thank you for the several people who've done that. We really appreciate that idea. The question is, can you do a system without touch? Okay. And how would you do that? Well, you could schedule the call using Fusion and have a no touch start if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an option. So that is the capability to do that. You would need a control system processor. So that's an option. Does the Flex card have a camera? Yes, it does. It's built into the sound bar, as Sean showed you. Wanted to make sure that got in there
So
as well. What is the weight of the card itself? That's all going to depend on the display that you use. At the present time, our design has a 65-inch display, and we will have on the specifications on our website
what the weight
what
is.
size displays and what the weights will be allowed.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a wired connection for Ethernet, not a wireless connection. Okay. So that is, Ethernet is required because this is a UC engine and it does need to go and have that included. Wireless touchscreen control is not supported as it is, again, a UC engine. Same thing for other UC engines. They do require the hardwired TSW panels. So
Correct.
It's a great, great thing. Rate screen weight limits will be discussed on the specs on the website. Okay. Massive deployment via XIO. Well, it's a Fusion. Sorry, it's a UC engine.
UC
so
engine product. Same
Same way you can deploy UC engines, you'll be able to deploy via XIO. So not full capabilities, but most. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't we use the wireless touch panel? As I said earlier, that's not an option. It's a limitation
Correct.
of the Zoom and Teams UI and the way they operate. Can you use the engine on another screen on wheels? If you wanted to, you could build your own system. Sure. We're trying to make it easier for you and do all the engineering for you.
Right.
The B series mic coverage is specified as 15 feet. Okay, that is the official specification. At one point, we did have 23 feet in the specs, but the correct specification is a 15-foot depth from the microphone in the sound bar. Okay,
Right.
it's really the pickup. The audio will go much further in terms of the output, but the microphone pickup is 15 feet.
Right.
Okay.
We'll have the specs posted on the website. So as they fully vet all of this, as they put everything together, they're going to have all the specifications, etc. They're currently going through a lot of the different trials right now. They're going through everything to get all that information for you. So that will be updated on the website at some point. I have to stress, this is a preview of something to come.
Right. So one of the things I'm seeing, a lot of people don't have access to this answer ID. So you need to be logged in as your dealer to get access to this.
Or as a partner.
Or as a partner, right. But you need to be logged into the your Crestron account. If you are still having problems with that, you can always request at techsales@crestron.com. In the email, just ask for us to send you these the PDFs of this. So we'll be more than happy to do that if you're having trouble accessing this. But yeah, so techsales@crestron.com and just request that, and we'll get right back to you on that.
So
Great.
cool.
Okay, and then there's questions, can I add a secondary mic? Well, with the Mercury system, they could add the additional boundary mics if they wanted, correct?
Correct.
I'm not sure where they'd put them, but the answer would be yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it can be done, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
why don't we continue on because we're actually at 12:30.
Oh.
So my apologies. We need to continue on, guys. This is a
That's
great thing. We will get all these questions answered in the email that goes out. So, Sean, take it from here, my good sir.
Believe it or not, Rich, this is actually where you had a poll set up for.
I
You
did.
had
So
it set
based
on
on
slide
this,
27.
let's see if people want to use it. So
I
let's
think I
get
know
your
the answer,
feedback.
but yes.
Do you guys think you would like to use these systems, and which ones would you like to use? Interesting. Some people are. Let's see how this comes out. So we basically are showing you everything that we just discussed. We'd love to see what your input and feedback is, and how many of you plan to use these types of scenarios. It is great to see. I see him. I think the mobile cart might win, or it's HTML5. The race is on, guys.
Please do
race
not
is
select
on.
none of the above. I didn't realize we had none of the above.
I
on the
did,
bottom.
and there's
Please
some
don't
people who,
select that.
you know what? There are some folks here who are sold
Yeah.
on just their custom solutions, and that's
Yes,
okay too.
yes.
The
Yeah.
idea here is not to replace what our customers do in the custom world, but to augment their business, to
Yes.
offer more solutions and more capabilities to provide solutions to their customers. And that really is the key here, is all of these designs are various things that we want to offer and allow you to think and build upon and
Right.
expand upon and
Yep.
create all new types of opportunities for your business, for your use, for your solution environment that you need.
Yeah.
There's great flexibility here. There's great power here in all of these offerings. Not a single one of them is an end all be all.
Right.
Each of them has their benefits. Each of them has their limitations.
Yep.
Okay. And that's interesting watching all the questions. What's really important to understand is these are all design concepts to
Correct.
fit into different environments, which is the point of the class, and
It's
to really make it so that you have flexibility, you have options, you have pre-canned solutions, you have custom solutions. You as our customer, as our partner, have great choices to make and great designs to accomplish what you wish to accomplish. All right, having said that, I'm going to go ahead and end the polling in 4 seconds because we need to move on.
last couple people. Yep. It is all
And I'm
about
gonna
being
end that.
able to exceed your customers' expectations to really improve their experience. Rich is absolutely right. This is all, oh, wait, there it is, it's back. I was gonna say, what were the results? Let me look at this real quick. Sorry, oh
So,
my goodness.
quite interesting
All
how
across the map.
well, we hope that everybody got something out of this class. It looks like, we brought up some cool thought processes to open up everyone's design ideas and understanding the challenges that we have. It's really fantastic to see that. That's great.
That is
Great.
a very close race between HTML5 and mobile carts. That's
Yeah.
wow. That's very close.
That's great. That shows you the custom teams and the I need a solution I can sell right away teams, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's a really great thing. And I'm glad that everybody was able to vote and share that information with us. Your feedback is being shared with the design engineers, by the way. Which is
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
And then someone says here, someone made a comment about the 2% who said none of the above. So be it. Okay.
Yeah.
You always have to have those.
Hey, everybody.
All right,
You have a
gentlemen, why don't we
custom solution,
continue
you have a
on?
custom. Absolutely, Rich. I'm right here. Hold on. There it is. So there's not much left at this point. I mean, we kind of just showed you all the cool stuff. At this point, I just wanted to throw this out here real quick. Scott and I both, we are part of this actual global team. Tech Sales is not just Tech Sales US. It is a global team. So we have guys in Europe, we have guys across the pond, and we're here to actually help and assist you guys. Just a general comment, all the designs that you saw, all the conversations we just had, whether it's control, whether it's audio, video, all of that stuff is what we do on a daily basis. And I realize a lot of our design teams, they might be working on one project for 2-3 weeks. They might be working on 2 or 3 projects. We go through 20 plus projects in a day. We're exposed to so many different designs, so many different environments, and really what I'm offering is kind of just a bit of a handout here. If you guys need help, if you're just kind of stuck on something, you're not sure of something, maybe it's a technology you guys haven't really worked with before, please give us a ring or drop us an email. We're more than happy to have a look at it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a formal design. It might just be, hey, I'm kind of curious about this technology. I've never really used it, or I'm stuck in this particular part of this project that I'm working on. All of us specialize in things. Myself, I specialize specifically in NVX, and we're more than happy to pick up the phone, more than happy to be here to help out with you guys. So there's the links. Go ahead, Scott.
It's a free service.
Yeah. So there are links that are here. There's answer IDs. I know the links are in the answer IDs. Apologies on that part. So 1000491 is probably the big takeaway, the 1000491. That is the actual design center. That's kind of the main nexus. 5797 is another great one, and I know that was recently updated. So 5797 is the other one. And then for those of you that do CAD, just a brief mention, we do actually have blocks, the design blocks that we did. Those are linked off the other two IDs I mentioned, but if you want to go directly to them, 5841 for those as well. All right. And I know we joke because I'm always curious if people have actually heard of tech sales before or not, because of the fact that we are kind of a bit of an obscure department. But we're here to help. That's who we are. That's what we do. We're here to help out. And I think, Rich, you have a poll for this one too. Actually, I'm just looking down at my paper.
I do, Sean. I do.
So one thing I do want to bring up to everybody so they understand that the CAD and the image design blocks, the images are made really for your Visio guys. The CAD blocks, so that you understand too, is they're all attributed. So you could just, on the PDF, you can just scroll over the top of the product number. It takes you to the product page. If you're doing rack builds, if you're doing different things, it has all your BTUs. It has a lot of, we call them smart blocks. We want to make sure that those blocks are useful to everybody in CAD, and that's why we went with the CAD format. So the library is automatically downloaded right to your CAD. We do have a Cad Support at Crestron.com for those who might have suggestions, or if you see any of these drawings that are up there on 5797 and you would like to have the actual, they're all PDF'd, but if you do need the CAD, just shoot us an email. We'll send you those CAD designs. There's a lot of stuff based on 5797. We have application drawings for products, and we also do by market type. So some people who are not really familiar with Crestron product, but you know what kind of room that you need, we have a lot of designs like that. You can get those CADs from us and just run with those and modify them. So that's something that's we're really happy about as far as with sales support services, and in the back end that we're developing a very cool back end design center for everybody to go to. You'll see on the design center, there's a lot of information on products and product pages that will kind of navigate you through a lot of things to get things faster and easier. So just to give you a little heads up on that.
Yeah. And it looks like it closed out. The resounding no. It's okay. I know a lot of people haven't necessarily heard of tech sales. The whole intent is to kind of bring awareness to it. So a lot of the things you guys have experienced today, a lot of the things you guys have seen today, and then plenty more, whether it's resi, whether it's commercial. I don't mean to sound like a commercial in saying this, but we're here. We are here to help. And so if you guys need anything, give us a ring. That's what we're here. That's what we do on a daily basis. So it doesn't matter if we're working remotely. We're still here.
Great.
All right.
Okay. Let's get wrapped up because we were going late as always.
I tried to avoid it. I did try
Not
to
your
avoid
fault.
it.
We spent a lot more time on that slide than we thought. It's all
Oh
good.
yeah, that slide was up for a while. All right, so in conclusion, just kind of wrapping this whole thing up, right? Just 3 questions really to kind of pose to you guys, and this is more just kind of personal reflection, and that is what are you currently doing? What are you currently designing? And what did you get out of this class? I don't know what the expectations were walking in. I know that we talked about communication among teams. I know we talked about trying to support remote workers. A lot of topics. I'm kind of curious, for your own personal reflection, what did you guys get out of this class? And really, how is this going to possibly change things moving forward? Is this going to alter your designs? Is this now a new frontier to really try and think about, okay, how am I going to augment my existing boilerplate design that I've always used to face the challenges of the new world that we're encountering. So it's a lot of different things to think about, guys. A lot of different things to kind of throw at you guys. All right. Personally, I wanted to thank all of you for attending. I know that regardless of which time zone you are in, because I know this is global, I know it takes effort to be here. I know it takes effort to take a couple hours out of your day. So certainly thank you all for attending. Thank you all for being here. Rich, at this point, I think you've got the closing spiel, but I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Well, we greatly appreciate everyone's time on the call today. Phenomenal, phenomenal feedback. Thank you. We will get answers to all of your questions. We're going to have to look into why some of you are not able to see the links on online help. You should be able to see them. I'm seeing people getting the PDFs are protected. So we'll have to look at that and make sure that that's not the case. So we'll get that going. We are going to wrap up the presentation now. We did go a little over, but we are going to stick around to continue with questions and answers. We're just going to end the recording. We do look forward to seeing you, hopefully all of you and then some, tomorrow with custom design with UC in mind, which is the continuation of the unified communications courses we have taught already. Our goal with the MTA track is a continual build and more detail as we go deeper and deeper into the sessions. So we look forward to seeing you. We thank you so much for your time. We are really glad you joined us, and we're going to go ahead and stop the recording right here.